Hi everyone, Christina here from A Life Well Documented, and I'm really happy to share this card making video with you. I've never done a video like this, but I was just really inspired with this simple card for my nephew's baby shower. He and his wife are huge Star Wars fans, so I'm going to do some paper piecing for Grogu. And I found this background image and this Star Wars inspired font online. I'll link them down below where I got them. And on the inside, and of course as you saw on the front there, I just have a couple of quotes of things that sounded very Yoda. So let's go to my Silhouette Cameo and get started on Grogu. So here is the Silhouette Studio design space, and it defaults with the print and cut border. I make all of my stickers for my Etsy shop in here, so I usually have that defaulted on. I'm just going to turn that off, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to make an outline for the size of the card. That way I know how to size my pieces. So I'm going to do the outside of the card. I like doing half fold cards, so this is going to be 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And then I'm just going to do a couple of pieces inside. This one is going to be 4 by 5 1/4 because I want that 1-inch border around my background image. So that blue is going to be the background image space. I'm going to make another box in the middle here. This is going to be the safe zone for my artwork. And I'm going to start with a box that's 3 3/4 by 5 inches. But as I group that with the rest of the card, it works out to be a little too snug. I want more space for that background image. So I reduce that down to 3 1/2 by 4 3/4 inches. That'll allow enough space for Grogu as well as the sentiment above and below. I'm going to grab everything and do Control G to group it together. That way nothing's going to move independently. Control G is one of those quick keyboard shortcuts for Silhouette Studio. And if you're interested in more shortcuts or Silhouette Studio tutorials, comment down below and let me know. I use Silhouette Studio a lot, and I'm happy to show you guys some tips and tricks. So now I've got all of the pieces open, and I'm just going to copy and paste them onto my main workspace. I'm going to center them, and I'm going to group them together. Each of those images I created with the background the exact same size. That way it would be easy to group them together, and then I could resize everything at once and know it was still proportionate. So that little Grogu looks like a good size, enough room for sentiments above and below. So I delete that background, and now I'm just arranging the different colors on the mat. I'm going to come over to the rulers and click and drag these lines onto the mat, which will help me line everything up. These lines don't print, so if you've never done this trick before, don't worry. They're not going to show up if you do a print and cut. And then what these lines are going to do is these are going to help me know what size pieces of paper I need to cut out for each of those different colors. So instead of putting just a whole piece of paper down and cutting out one thing and pulling the whole paper up, I'm just going to cut down segments of that paper and then lay them out in this kind of grid pattern on my mat and do all the cuts at once. So now I'm going to come over here to select the trace area. This is going to actually make the cut portion of the cut file. And I just move the threshold around and scale it. And then there you can see that outline. And again, just moving the threshold around, I scale everything down as tight as possible to try to make the cut file really smooth. And then for Grogu, I actually want all of that black and cut out everything in between. So as I trace, I'm going to use the trace feature instead of the trace outer edge. And as you can see, that will give me everything in the black there. So now I've got everything traced, and a couple of pieces like Grogu, the hearts, and the eyes are going to be cut out on cardstock. But the body parts and the cloak are going to be cut out on paper. So I'm changing the cut strength and the type of material for each of those. And you can actually send all of this through Silhouette Studio at once. I'm not sure if that medium paper is going to be a thick enough cut, so I'm just going to turn off the cardstock, send that through the Silhouette Studio first. All right, so I've got everything ready to make the card. I've got all of the pieces I just cut out down here at the bottom. I've got his eyes, the heart and his tongue, the outline and the face pieces, his body and the cloak. And then for the image itself, I printed that on photo paper because I wanted the colors of the galaxy to be very vibrant. And then I just typed a couple of quotes that sounded like things Yoda would say to a new parent. For the card base, I took an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, and in InDesign, I spaced out where the text was going to go on the bottom half of the sheet. You can do that in Microsoft Word or other types of software. I just cut it in half, scored the edge, and then there's my card base and the card front. So now let's go ahead and put Yoda together. So I've got all of my pieces down here. I'm gonna grab my Zig glue pen. That's my favorite glue pen. I have those fine line bottles, but I have Tombow Aqua in there, and for whatever reason, I just can't get it to work. I always have to squeeze really hard, and I can never seem to get the glue out easy. So for those of you who use those fine liner bottles, comment down below and let me know what I'm doing wrong, because I'd really like to use them, but I just haven't figured it out. I'm just going to put a bunch of dots all around the outside of the frame and then just lay down all of the individual pieces. Hands and feet go first, then the heart, and then of course his little cloak for the background. I got his head down, and now I'm just going to get his eyes and his mouth all lined up, and then I'll get the highlights in his eyes and his nose and his tongue on there as well. And he is just too adorable. So now I just grab my ATG. This is my go-to tape runner. And I lay tape all around the edge of the card, which probably wasn't the best idea, because as I get it laid down, the bottom looks a little crooked to me. And of course my OCDP just says you've got to fix it. So I lift it up. I try to get it as straight as possible, but it's not centered, but it's good enough. And now I'm just going to get some tape on the back of Yoda, and then I'm going to move the card kind of centered on the lines on my grid on my mat there, and then get Yoda laid down. Now I'm just going to grab a pen and get some of those little details, the little wrinkles around his face laid in. And there we go. All right, so there's my Star Wars themed baby card. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. And of course, if you'd like to see more card making videos, comment down below. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing to my channel. I'll see you guys later. Bye.